Several years ago, I was completely flat broke, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was self sabotaging myself with decisions I was making that were continually keeping me broke. And I was never going to be able to break out of that cycle until I realized these 8 different things that I'm about to share with you in this video. But hopefully, once you realize these things, you can get on the path to achieving whatever your financial goals are for yourself much faster. And the first one is stop chasing quick wins and build a real business. Now, young, dumb Chris had this really bad habit of he would build a little, couldn't even really call it a business, but like a side hustle. And he would work on it for a little bit in the beginning, like when it was exciting, get the ads off the ground, get some results, get it to a certain point, and then he would just look over his shoulder and go, oh, that looks cool too. And then either A, completely drop what he was doing here, or B, just shift focus to that entirely, and whatever it was could be a completely different business, entirely different skill set. Didn't matter. If it looked like really good, then he would just drop it. And the reason for that was that I was chasing really quick wins. Like I felt like I had my back up against the wall financially, and that I just had to make something work. And when I had that mindset going into it, like I wasn't setting myself up for success to begin with, and I was just chasing whatever was going to bring in the quickest amount of cash. If I thought that I could make a few $1,000s from that, a few $1,000s from this, that was the mindset that was driving me to go from thing to thing, because it was exciting going from like 0 to 100K in sales. Like that was the rush, going from nothing to this. And then it hits a ceiling where it got more boring and it would require a different skill set to break through it. So the quick wins that I was chasing would be tiny things that would just give like the dopamine hit of feeling like, oh, I did something. I accomplished something that was good. When in reality, I wasn't actually building a business, and I would end up just checking boxes wherever I could and never really nailing down like, what is the business that I'm building? And I was chasing quick wins because, like I said, I felt like my back was up against the wall. But completely ironically, the fastest way to make real money, the only way in my experience to make real money, is by building a real business. Everything else is just going to be in short windfalls, but it's not going to be long-term and sustainable. And chasing quick wins went hand in hand extremely well with number 2. The second thing that I needed to hear back when I was broke was that I was not behind and that I should stop acting like it. And a great quote from Bill Gates, there's been lots of people who have said this, but the quote is that most people overestimate what they're able to get done in a day or a week, and they grossly underestimate what they can get done in a year or 10 years. And this summed me up to a T. I always had this fear or urge at the back of my mind that if I wasn't getting results, if I was not a millionaire by X date or X age, then I was a failure in some way. And like I had to hurry up and get the success right now, which is something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a similar feeling about, for better or for worse. But it was forcing me into this short-term thinking of I need to achieve this by next week or next month. And like, if it doesn't happen right now, then it's never going to happen. And it's just, whoa, like, take a breath. Like, you're going to be here for a while. And even if you're not picturing decades down the road, just picture next year. And that's been a big shift that has helped me a ton in business and just in life in general, is expanding the, to use Hormozi's term, the time horizon, or just how long the time is that I'm looking at. And I no longer think of goals or accomplishments that I want to hit in terms of weeks or months, but I think about like, where could it be next year or 5 years from now if we just continually show up and do the right thing. And when I do that, it does 2 things. One, it shifts my thinking from the outputs to the inputs. It shifts it from the pressure being around getting this outcome by X date, and it shifts it to me continually showing up and doing this input, whatever that is, for that entire amount of time. And the second thing that does is, ironically, it gets the results a whole lot faster, because when you shift your thinking from outputs to inputs, it ends up improving the quality of the inputs dramatically, which the only way you get the outputs is from this. So it changed my life. It took me years to learn it. Now you know it, so you can shift your thinking to more long-term instead of short-term thinking. And if you're hearing that thinking, Chris, I need money like next week, I totally get that. I'm not saying anything about anyone's personal situation. All that I'm saying is from my experience, being able to look at what's my goal by this time next year, or what's my goal by this time in 3 years. And truly meaning that, not just when somebody says, oh, what's your 10-year vision, just picking things out of the sky, like actually saying, okay, I'm signing up for the next 12 months, 12 calendar months of whatever this thing is that I'm doing. Where would I like this to be by then? And then just get to work. That's all I'm saying. The third habit that I got into when I was completely broke that did not serve me well at all, to say the least, is that I wasn't very accountable to the things or actions that I'd done or that had happened to me. And not that I would like place blame, but I was very good at coming up with excuses or reasons that things hadn't worked out. It's, oh, that was about to work out, but then this happened, so it didn't quite get there. And it was that thinking, like allowing myself to mentally come up with the excuses of what had happened that had stopped that thing from happening. And it was always something that was outside of my control, because then it was like, oh, couldn't have possibly done something about that because this happened. Shifting that thinking, and the thing that really did this for me was reading the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Amazing book, but the TLDR of it is that basically everything is your fault, or was my fault. And it's powerful and painful at the same time. Painful for obvious reasons, because then it forces you to look in the mirror and see that you are the creator of your own circumstances, like full stop, bar none. Literally everything that has happened is on you. But then it's also extremely empowering. So powerful, because when it's all your fault, it's also all in your control. And what this would look like in practice is, okay, our new store launch didn't go to plan. Like our sales weren't where we wanted them to be. Old Chris would have looked at that and said, that team member didn't do this, our supplier didn't do that, whoever didn't do this, and Facebook just sucks. Those would have been all, and maybe those are valid things, who knows? But how does that serve me? That doesn't change, it doesn't give me anything to build off of for next time. Nowadays, the way that I would try to look at that circumstance, same exact thing, but it could have been instead a different way of looking at it is just, I didn't train that team member enough. I didn't vet that supplier well enough in advance. I didn't diversify our marketing channels, or didn't make enough ad creatives to make our Facebook ads successful. And those things, the same exact circumstances, but flips it on the head so that now it's all pointing back at me. So the next time we do a new store launch or whatever it is, I have tangible things that I can pull forward from my past to improve upon. Whereas if I was just a finger pointer, just saying how it's everybody else's fault, I'm going to find those same excuses to point at this time around, and I'm no better for it. And along that same vein, the fourth mistake that I made when I was super broke was not surrounding myself with people who were smarter than me. Basically, when I was first starting my business, I was off on an island. I was working at Amazon. I was living alone in Jersey. I was just in a little isolated bubble, like just making my business by myself, not really talking to anybody about it. And it sucked. And I thought for some reason that it was the only way. I was like, this has to be the way to do it. Like, I can't get help from anybody else. My family can't know. None of my friends do this. And that couldn't have been further from the truth, because I was learning at the speed of one person. And then once I finally joined a group of entrepreneurs who were all running their own businesses, my growth went from this to like that, because I was surrounding myself with people who were smarter than me in at least one or two or different areas, and we were all learning from each other collectively. I'm a big believer in the rule of you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I don't know if it's exactly 5, but it feels very true to me. And that is the people that I'm surrounding myself with, that I'm learning through, like via osmosis, day in and day out. You become more and more like those people. And so if I'd surrounded myself with smarter people like that earlier on in my career, it would have helped me just not just learn new tactics and strategies and like ways of thinking, but also breaking like my own patterns of belief and redefining like what's possible. Being around smarter people had so many profound effects in that arena that I wouldn't have ever expected. And number 5 is perhaps my favorite, and that is chase dull systems, not shiny objects. If I could go back in time and shake younger Chris with any one thing, it would be this one: building dull systems, better put, not chasing shiny objects. Where this comes from is that I got very good at launching brands from 0 to 100K a month plus, like 0 to 7 figures in the first year, no doubt. Like every time by the end, in the beginning, it was like super rocky, but then I got really good at that. Honestly, it was not the skill set that I should have gotten really good at, was just going from 0 to a million. There's way more valuable skills, like building one brand from 0 to 10 million a year, way better. But I didn't learn that because I was chasing the shiny object, the next store, the next thing. And I didn't know this at the time, but it, was really a detriment because I was never having to learn the skill set of building the systems and operations to like scale to the next level. If I just stuck with one brand, built one brand to 8 figures instead of 4 brands to like low 7 figures, you make so much more money, and it's just such a better business to run. Plus side, I now know how to build brands from 0 to 7 figures extremely well, which is what we teach everybody in We Scale. And there's a 21-hour free course on that you can check out. But yeah, so there are some pros, but my name of the game now for me is chasing things that sometimes feel boring, and knowing that the boring feeling is often a good sign that you're on the right path. Number 6 is learning the true value of your business. This one gets a little bit more technical, so we'll just cover it briefly, but it's an important point that learning that the business that I thought I was building, or that I actually was building, was not valuable at all until I made some specific changes to it. And number 1 is that I kept clear financials and had like extremely documented, like well organized everything, like a trailing 12-month P&L, had all the expenses separated from personal, little things like that. And then 2, building a business that an investor or somebody else would be interested in actually buying. And there's no magical buyer out there that just because you have a business that's making some money, it doesn't mean that just magically there's somebody out there for it who wants to buy it. It doesn't mean that at all. The real value in what you're building is in building something that has the ability to run and grow and continually make profit, not just flatline, but grow even without you once you step away from the business. And learning that early on would have helped shift my thinking and help like course correct for a lot of the things we've already talked about. Once you know that's your guiding North Star, that's your goal, is building one thing that's able to grow on its own, it shows that it doesn't make sense to be chasing shiny objects, to be chasing short wins, to be any of those things. You have to be building a business that's actually valuable for other people. And the 7th thing that I needed to hear desperately when I was extremely broke was to cut out the bad habits, the habits that I didn't want to hear about, the things that I just like thinking, yeah, I can still be successful despite that. Whatever those things are, it's different for all of us. But for me, it was little things like getting bad sleep, drinking like a little too casual, aggressively casually, things like that, not exercising consistently enough, not taking care of myself. All those things that feel like negotiables when the going gets tough and you're working long hours, they start to feel more negotiable than they actually are, because they're not negotiable. Taking care of your body, getting good quality sleep, not drinking a ton. Like I haven't drank at all since February of last year. So was that 18 months now? Yeah, those things, cutting those habits out, those things that I was compromising in my mind, that it was okay to be, well, I'm working hard, I don't need to get great. It's okay if I go to bed late. It's okay if I don't eat the best food because I'm working hard. Like all those compromises I made was really just making my life so much harder and keeping me in the same place that I was. And last thing I'll say about this is that the way to becoming more successful is the version of yourself who got you to the point you're at needs to change. That doesn't happen overnight, and also doesn't happen easily. So just think about that the version of you who got you to where you are is always going to get you to exactly where you are. And if you picture yourself in the future, like 5 years down the road, and you're worth $10 million, you picture that version of yourself. This is a very easy thought experiment. Picture what that version of yourself looks like. They don't look the same, which you think about that, that's pretty funny. Like we recognize it when we stop and think, oh yeah, the version of me that would be able to do X, Y, and Z, like they would do this, they would get up early, they would make their bed first thing, like all these little things you could just rattle off. It's okay. So that's the person that I need to become if I want whatever output. So I need to do that. Realizing that those habits shape who we are and dictates what kind of outputs we're able to get. And when you shift your thinking from the outputs to the inputs, like we already talked about, the inputs in this case being the habits, it really changes how you think about and like approach your day-to-day life. And I won't get into, you need to be doing a cold plunge and an ice bath or like sauna every day, not just a cold plunge, also an ice bath. But I'm not saying you have to do that and do the Wim Hof method and all that stuff, but just clean, healthy habits that you don't have to be an extremist, but just things that set you up for success. In my opinion, those things are like just getting good sleep, not eating a ton of junk, not drinking a ton, like simple things that we all can look at on a sheet of paper and go, yeah, these make sense. That's all it means. Which leads to number 8. And this is one that a lot of beginner entrepreneurs, myself included, struggle with a ton. And that is better time management when it comes to your work. And this time management concept is heavily intertwined with the concept of productivity. So what this looked like for Chris early on, like when I was broke, is that I would wake up at a certain time and then start working. And the way that I managed my time was that I didn't have time blocks. I didn't have a set schedule or agenda or things that I was going to do for the day. I just sat down and just started working. But what happens when you do that is you just sit down and you start doing whatever. You pull up Shopify, you pull up Facebook ads, you pull up Slack, you just send some messages, you pop back over to Shopify, putz around a little bit, then, oh, let's see if the ads got approved. Oh, they got approved. Like, oh, how's this campaign been doing? Oh, this campaign. Oh, I think I saw a YouTube video about that. Let me go check that out. Oh, there's another video. Before you know it, like 3.5 hours is gone. And you're like, what did I do? Except the bad part is that you don't even have that thought. You just get up and you're like, yeah, that was pretty good. I got some good stuff done there. Some stuff. If somebody asked you to like write a list of what you actually got done, it'd be a big challenge. But you got some stuff done. And that's exactly the thing. This was the thing that kept me broke for so long, is realizing that work doesn't count unless there's actually an output from it. And an output is not just moving shit around. So what this looks like is set up time blocks. Do a 3-hour window where in that 3-hour window, you are turning off all notifications, all everything, literally locking yourself in a room. You have one objective. And that one objective can be like your high level task or your big project. And you do literally nothing but that one thing until it is done. And during that time, you have simple rules that you don't have to do that work, but the only thing that you can do is that work. So if you just want to end up sitting there in the room, this is what Jerry Seinfeld famously says about his joke writing process. And it's a concept from like Cal Newport with Deep Work, where Jerry Seinfeld would lock himself in a room, like pen and paper. He would just write jokes for 3 or 4 hours a day. His only rule was that during that time, he could only write jokes. He couldn't do anything else. So he didn't have to. If you're sitting in an empty room with nothing but a desk and a chair and a pen and paper, you're going to end up writing jokes eventually. And he did that and conditioned his mind to be like expecting that, so that when he walked in that room and sat down during that time, just flowed out of him, which that's getting into like flow state and stuff. But the specific here is time management is not just thinking like, oh, I worked 8 hours today. It's deep work, time blocking, plus productivity, all of that together, and not like allowing myself to think that I was being more productive than I was. There you have it. Those are 8 great habits to adopt if you are trying to stay broke. I don't recommend them. I recommend doing the opposite. Yeah, hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Comment down below if any of these relate to you or you find that you are currently doing a version of these. I'd love to hear it and chat with you in the comment section. And if you want to learn way more in depth about all this stuff, feel free to check out the 21-hour course. And I'd love to see you in the community as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.